Today I'm going to be making bowl turners tools, and this is something really very different. It's little curved hooks on the end of very long turning tools. You can't really buy these commercially at all easily, so it's far better to make your own and get your own designs. And it's for making bowls and plates, wooden bowls and plates. And they're great for eating out of. So what I'll do in this video is show you the making of the turning tool. And then in a following video I'll do the construction of a bowl maker's pole lathe. And then probably do some actual bowl turning and plate turning as another video. So be a nice bit of information here all about pole lathes and bowl turning. Well, this is a bowl turner's hook that I made earlier that seems to work quite well, so I thought I'd fashion a couple more of these, one slightly larger and one similar sort of size. They all come out a bit differently. I've actually put it onto one of my excess chair legs that I seem to regularly turn on bowl lathes, and the reason these bowl turners hooks are so long is when you use them you actually sort of hold it in the crook of your arm. Some people tuck them underarm like that to use them, and other people have them in your crook of your arm, so you do need a handle that's getting on for 20 inches long, so about 18 inches is quite good. So actually a chair leg actually has some grippy bits built in, so that's great actually. So that's the idea. We'll get forging and see how it goes. I'm going to be using my little forge poker today, and this is a little project I made a little earlier when I was sort of picking up some of the basics of blacksmithing, and it's quite a nice little tool to use. It's got a nice little curvy end, a point for sorting out the clinker, and I did a wave twist on this one so it twists both directions. Quite good fun. In terms of metal, quite a good source is old car springs. It's a good springy quality steel, and it's dirt cheap from your local scrapyard. I got a few springs the other day and just slipped them a couple of pounds, and they were very happy with that. So that's one option. You do have to obviously straighten them out, which takes a while, but it does work, and there's probably about 5 foot of metal in one of these. Anyway, that's one option. What I'm going for, because I have to be honest, it's probably more consistent quality results, is using some silver steel. This is like tool steel, and it's ground, nice material. It's not too expensive, £3 or £4 a rod. I've got some 1/2 inch and some 3/8, so I'll do one smaller, one bigger, and it does handle nicely, and it's more consistent on hardening, tempering, etc. But as I say, the springs work, so I mean, why not in some ways? I'm burning coke in the forge, and I always light it with a little bit of firewood. I get plenty of offcuts. Just putting some oil on the treadle unit here on the blower, and that just helps it run nice and smoothly. A bit more oil on the pedal. It's quite an effective little unit this. It pumps air through quite well and keeps running. And a good bit of heat now, and that's nice glowing coke, which I like to see, and got some silver steel in there. This sequence has been sped up about 8 times, and I'm using quite a lightweight hammer. It's about a £1 weight hammer here, as it's fairly small bar cross section. Important thing here is to rotate the hammering through 90 degrees, so hit one side and then turn the bar around 90 degrees so that it just gets longer and thinner and doesn't get wider, because I don't want the tool to be too wide. And I'm now just raising the bar slightly off the anvil to get that nice flat end, and in a minute I'll be curving the end over on the edge of the anvil. So one more little heat there, and just getting that ready, and you'll see just in a second I'm going to move that over and curve the end. Here it goes, so a few gentle light taps. It's fairly easy at this stage because obviously that metal's very thin, and once the curve is started it's quite easy then to knock it back on itself and get the nice hook shape that one wants. And I'm just making sure I'm getting that as even as I can, and then just straightening its back. So final heat now, and this is the quenching in cooking oil, and this will harden the metal. And I'm swirling it around to cool it down, and I've got a second jar of oil which will be cooler to get it even colder. And this will make the metal really hard. The next stage after that will then be to temper it, to make it less hard. And it was quite satisfying at this stage. You see flames coming out. Right, that's the oil quench. So my next job now will be to temper this, and I'm going to do the tempering in an oven. Well, that's the forging done, and I've got a 3/8 and a 1/2 inch now, both reasonably well turned. My next stage is to do the tempering. When I was dipping them in the oil, that was a hardening stage, so that's got these two tools. Very, very hard, so fire won't do much to them, but they'll be too hard to sharpen and they'll be terribly brittle in use and could crack. So the tempering will soften them up a bit, but not too much, so they still keep a nice keen edge. And so my next stage, say, is tempering. I'll do that in the kitchen oven, set it between 175 and 200 degrees centigrade, and put them in for about an hour, just cooking away nicely. You can do it on the forge, and if you do, you just heat them up. You get the colours, tempering colours coming through, and for these woodworking tools you just want a very light straw colour to appear, and as soon as you see the straw run down the silver metal, plunge it into water to cool it. That's it. I'm going to use an oven next, and then I'll put handles on them. Well, having hardened the bowl turning hooks in the oil, I'm now tempering them in the oven, so this just gets the metal a bit more normalised and means you can put a good cutting edge on it. And I've got the oven set at around about 180, 185 area. I've got an extra thermometer in there as well, just to check they're consistent. And it's a fairly good oven, this one, so it's going fine. And they'll be in there cooking for about an hour. It's an old blacksmith's trade secret that if you cook them with rhubarb, they actually come out far better. So I have got in there a big bowl of rhubarb pie cooking away, and that will make them taste even better still. Well, the tempering in the oven seems to have gone really well, because these have come out with a very nice straw colour, which is what I wanted. I did actually test these after the hardening, so that was when I quenched them in oil. And to test to see if they were really hard, I put a file on them, and the file literally bounced off. So the hardening's clearly worked well. After tempering, I'd expect these to be softer, because the idea of tempering is to get rid of the brittleness in the metal and be able to put an edge on it to get it a little bit softer, but not too soft. And I've put a file across this just now, and it was marking them, which is what I would expect to happen, so that's a bit like sharpening. So anyway, next steps now is to wire brush off some of the scale, and then to grind them to shape, and then do a final polish. Well, I'm now at the other side of my workshop to do some grinding on these. I'm going to grind them roughly to shape and then get a nice bevel on them. So I'll get my nice heavy duty grinder started up. I'm quenching into water as I grind. I want to get quite a lot of material off, so I'm using this power grinder. When I come to do some finer stuff, I may use a water grinder. With the grinding, I'm trying to get the end of this rounded, so a bit like a fingertip really, because what will happen is it will ride in the bevel. So when you're actually doing the cutting, like with any other turning tool, one will ride it on the surface of the wooden bowl and then tilt it so it starts to cut. So I've tried to make this like a round finger top as much as possible by rounding it in all directions. The other thing I need to do just after the grinding is using a diamond file to try and clean up the inside more. So I'm just going here with a diamond file and getting all the scale off and trying to get it down to solid metal as far as possible. The diamond file is quite good at this sort of thing. It does need to be quite a good strong file, and so a little diamond one does the job quite nicely, and one can wash it afterwards. That's actually beginning to shine up quite well. Having done now the grinding and the diamond honing inside, the final stage in the blade preparation is doing the polishing, and I've got some green polishing wax here on a buffing wheel, and I'm going to apply the wax to the wheel and then grind off the tool or polish the tool surface nicely. So here goes. Oops, need that one on. This is quite a firm polishing wheel. It is worth, if you have a polishing wheel for tool honing, to actually get a firm one. You don't want it too soft, otherwise you just lose your edge. But this is, as you can probably see, it's quite a hard wheel, and it's far better the stiffer the wheel. It does polish it up quite quickly. You get quite a nice edge going on there. The wax has like an aluminium oxide in it. So I will carry on doing this and just get that nice, and then I'll give it a final sort of hone. I'm just drilling a couple of old chair legs I've got here for the handles, because they're about the right length. And I'm using my old Stanley Continental drill. I'll socket them in quite deep. You're doing that superbly. I mean,
well, I've had a bit of practice.
Yeah.
I've had a bit of practice.
Oh, it's flying off, isn't it?
They're extremely good quality shavings.
Oh, that's good.
And ultimately, of course, you can light the fire with them, you can give them to your grandchildren to play with, you can, whatever. The thing is with that hook, it's so sharp that there might be a tendency for it to dig in a bit, because it's, you know, it's cutting incredibly well.
It's a strange technique. You do have to sort of try and roll a bevel, don't you?
Yes, exactly. You actually should be running on the bevel all the time, and then as you twist it, you'll start to feel it cut.
Here's the finished bowl, and I'm very pleased with it. So much so, in fact, that I signed it back and gave it to my wife as an anniversary present. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed watching this film, and perhaps you might be tempted to have a go at bowl turning yourself.